Hey there, listener. We are Nerds of the Old Republic. I'm Adam.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Mike.
We're going to do it sequentially this time.
Excellent.
All right. Yes, we are here talking about the, what is it now? The 6th movie in our Quentin Tarantino saga, studying his works. But before we get to Inglourious Basterds, Sean is going to continue his roaming series with us where he brings us a surprise beer. We have no clue what this is. Could be garbage. Could be lovely.
Could be both.
Well, yes, indeed. What is it?
I love how I've become like the beer Ronin of the cast here.
Oh, nice.
All right, guys. So
wait. As you pull the beer out, you don't have to describe it, but let me know. I'll make the noise from Kill Bill 1 where they take her sword out of the sheath.
So we're doing Inglourious Basterds today, which is a World War II anti-Nazi revenge kind of epic. Mm-hmm. And one of the scenes in the movie features a just absurd Michael Myers cameo. And in the background is this dude playing Churchill, and he's just sitting there for whatever fucking reason. The whole thing is like, it's like comic Stanley Kubrick in a way. That's how it felt to me. It felt like it's a Kubrick-style shot, and it was just fucking absurd. Right. Mm-hmm. So I saw this beer that had a picture of Winston Churchill on it, and I'm like, let's go with that.
There we go.
So we are drinking tonight.
Oh, is this a breakfast stout?
It's a Warhorse beer.
Oh, okay.
And it's called Tiki Time with Churchill. It's a tropical stout with coconut coffee.
Nice.
Wow, actually, I'm likely to really enjoy this.
Honestly, guys, I don't care what the flavor. It had a picture of Churchill on it, so it actually worked for the cast instead of me just randomly picking something.
And Churchill has a lei around his neck. Love it.
Yeah. So
there's palm trees on this thing.
Warhorse is from, I don't know, because I can barely read this can.
It's hard because there's a lot of graphics going on, but it's from New York because it's got the Think New York, Drink New York tag.
Established 2006 or 8, something like that. Let's see what we got. God, I can't. I need
do you want me to? I can read it. Do you want me to do this?
I gotta get my readers out. All right, here we go. Calling all seekers of sun-soaked mirth. Unleash your own endless summer with Tiki Time with Churchill, the beer that brings the taste of the tropics right to your door. Let the bold flavors of roasted coffee and creamy coconut whisk you away to your own beachside oasis of surf and sun, where every sip becomes a celebration of the fleeting warmth and the joy of summertime bliss. I started off so great.
It is cast number 3 of the night.
These are the most absurd fucking tasting notes.
Oh my god!
I love this shit.
Say aloha to Tiki Time with Churchill and let the good times roll. Tropical daydreams in the unlikeliest of places.
This is fucking fantastic. Churchill and Hawaii
it has
for some reason.
An album pairing recommendation.
Oh, nice.
Long Time Coming by Sierra Farrell.
Oh, never mind.
5% alcohol by volume, 16 fluid ounces or 1 pint, 10 IBU.
Which means no hops.
Oh, then good.
All right, well, gentlemen, choose your weapon here. We can pour these up.
We've got various buffalo-themed steins. There's 2... glasses.
Adam, you called out the lightning slug
I did.
Earlier, so
it's
I'm giving
back
it
for
to
my
you.
day. Buffalo Sabres fans, I'm sorry. But also, Buffalo Sabres fans, it's the lightning slug from circa, 10 through 15? 2010 through 2015, something like that?
2006 through, about
Ryan
maybe
Miller's,
a little early, like 11 maybe, or 12.
Ryan Miller's career.
Yeah, Ryan Miller's career.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, all right, so let's open them up.
Ready?
It almost smells like caramel popcorn.
Must have been high as fuck when they came up with this concept.
You know what? I was just...
low ass shit. Of course, Churchill is the face of that.
Tiki time with Churchill, man.
You know what? I can't picture Churchill in anything except for like a 3-piece suit,
Right.
or like him tromping off to Tripoli. So like, I would love to see him in like a Speedo or something.
Well, according to this full color picture of Winston Churchill, he got laid.
Well, yeah, because yeah.
I always think that babies, newborns, look like Winston Churchill.
That's a fact.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.
Clink.
Salud.
Salute.
That is exactly as advertised.
Aloha, motherfuckers.
Well, Mike, I'll be leaving that extra beer with you.
Aw. Is it too coffee or
I
too
like it,
coconut?
man.
It's okay.
But it is very heavy on exactly those tasting notes. I mean, the
Yeah.
coffee hits you up front, and then there's like that lingering coconut suntan lotion-y type.
Yeah, I get the
Finish.
impression this was like
Yeah.
flavor syrups added to something that wasn't brewed into the beer, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough to tell. Because, I mean, flavor syrups have gotten so good and adjuncts are so good at this point.
Yeah.
No, I certainly could not drink more than, say, 2 of these in a sitting. But
Yeah.
Well, that's generous.
but
of you.
those 2 would be delightful.
All right. Well, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it.
Well, thank you again for your beer selections. I'm sorry that
Yes.
yet once again you have picked beer to drink that you don't like.
Oh, that's all part of the roll of the dice, guys.
I do enjoy your beer selection, Sean.
If I brought ones that I like to drink, like large quantities of, we'd be drinking Coors or, so the Banquet, by the way, not the light one.
I think I did bring, what was it? It was fucking Jenny to
It was
one of,
Jenny,
one of
yeah.
our podcasts.
Yeah, the last time we were, not the last time, but one of the times we were at Sean's.
That's right. We were
I
at
did
Sean's,
briefly flirt with getting some kind of like Meisterbrow or something like
Yeah.
that, just to say, fuck it. But,
Sure.
I saw
mean,
this.
Yeah, Meisterbrow would have fit because it's German.
Yeah, hey,
Right?
yeah.
It would have worked.
Yeah.
So, speaking of German, we're talking about Inglourious Basterds, which I had not seen before.
Well, real
Period.
quick though, let's just say that we skipped over Grindhouse.
Oh, yeah,
sure.
right
We
now.
can have
Rodriguez
that conversation
joint,
now. Yeah.
because that was, again, a prep project between Rodriguez and Tarantino. It was Planet Terror and Death Proof, and Tarantino had the Death Proof part of the double feature. And I remember largely because of Kill Bill, and being like, oh man, it's so good.
Another Tarantino.
This new movie, let's go see it. Yeah, and I dragged my wife to it, or girlfriend at the time, and maybe we were married, I don't remember. When did this come out? When did it
Maybe
come
they were
out?
different
I don't
people.
know.
That would have been around 2006.
So we might have been married. Yeah, we were. And I should have
I
said
wasn't
might
gonna
have.
fill in that blank.
Yeah. So dragged her to it, and then realized like right away, I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to be in this theater for 4 hours. And Planet Terror was okay.
Planet Terror was pretty funny, as I recall. I saw it in theater too, but never again since.
Right, exactly. It's one of those things where I think after the whole experience, I walked out going like, yeah, I don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the grind
once was enough.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole thing with Death Proof was almost like a pastiche of what Tarantino does in his movies. There's the overly long conversation where, okay, it was cute before and it actually had some bearing on things, but in this one, it's like, all right, this is just getting fucking self-indulgent.
Right.
And the, it felt almost like he went way too far into it.
I agree. If Tarantino's movies are all homages to the films that influenced him, this was not an homage. It was a parody almost.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, or I don't know what word you want to use there, but it was like, he was like, no, I'm just going to make one of those movies.
Right.
And, I saw it in the theater the one time and I've never seen it since. I do feel like I would find something in it now to appreciate more than I did then, but I don't think I'd ever like it from what I remember.
maybe.
It just, I don't think it rises to that level.
Does he count it as part of his 10 films, though?
Yeah.
Fuck. Dude, Quentin, come on, man.
But I did see, he said somewhere recently in an interview, I don't want to like quote him wrongly, but he did express like that was the one film he made that didn't quite go over the way he'd hoped it would.
Really?
Yeah.
So he feels the same way.
Yeah, he said something about it that was, acknowledging that it was not exactly a success.
Because if he was going to defend that thing, in all of it, in its weirdness and not being not very good, I would have had some issue with that. But, okay, it's good when an artist could admit
Yeah.
they didn't do as well as they should have.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's probably all we need to say about that.
Yeah, let's put that to bed.
Yeah, we skipped him over. If you want to be angry at us, you can talk to us.
No. Well, he returned to form impressively with Inglourious Basterds.
Right. So, yeah, that was my experience with seeing this movie. Contextually, I was a big Tarantino. I thought, once upon a time, Tarantino was like, the great filmmaker of our era after his first 3 films. As I said, in a previous cast here, Kill Bill 1 disappointed me. Kill Bill 2 I liked a lot, and it redeemed Kill Bill 1 for me. But at the time, I still was like, they're more fun than they are great.
Yeah.
And then we waited years, again, for Death Proof to come out. And that was such a disappointment. So when you look at that, that's a decade. That's literally a decade from Jackie Brown to Death Proof. And by the time Inglourious Basterds comes out in 2008, it's been like over a decade since we've had a truly great Tarantino film. Now, I would count Kill Bill as a great film now. I didn't then, right?
That's fair. I felt the same way.
So I walked into the theater thinking like, okay, Tarantino, maybe he's not like a great master of our era like we thought he was, but he's still an entertaining filmmaker. I'm looking forward to this movie. And right literally from the opening scene with Christoph Waltz going to the French farm, I knew this shit is going to be fucking fantastic. And to me, this was the movie that redeemed Tarantino, corrected his career, and everything that's followed since has been fucking wonderful.
Yeah.
End of cast. All right. We'll see.
Yes. Thank you for listening.
And communication.
No, it's funny. The very first thing is you see, God, I can't even think of his name right now, but it's that pastoral scene, chopping the wood, and you're in for subtitles. You're in for subtitles. Because that's, unless you watch it on Plex.
Right.
In which case you're lost the entire movie.
Luckily, I speak French.
That's good. How's your German, though?
I speak German, too.
Damn, good for you.
Yeah, damn right, buddy.
So,
wow.
But yeah, that whole thing, I'm like, okay, so how is he going to invert this trope of like the artsy film where you have to follow along with the subtitles because it's, some European language or languages that you have to read at the bottom.
I got subtitles in this one, by the way.
You did? Okay.
It was funny, though, because I did find myself going like, would I be able to actually follow this without the subtitles? And I'm like, I could pick out things here and there, but they're talking so quickly and fluently.
Yeah.
Because, Christoph Waltz is just insanely good. That guy is amazing.
He's brilliant.
When that, opening scene with the French guy, he's chopping wood and the daughters and all of that, it's like, oh my God, that is the beginning of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah.
It's the guy at home in his hacienda, and Angel Eyes shows up, and there's this tense moment where they break bread and they're sharing a meal, and it's just like, it's the same fucking thing, note for note, and it's brilliant.
It's that scene is the type of thing you either love or hate about those kind of movies because literally 10 minutes of screen time goes by and there's not a single line of dialogue. Angel Eyes literally sits down at the table and starts eating the food and shit. And nobody talks.
Right.
So this is the same thing. Like he's out doing work, like you said. I didn't make that specific connection. But the Kill Bill or the spaghetti western leanings that we talked about that really started in the Kill Bill stuff is in full effect.
Oh, absolutely.
You get the horizon shot early on.
It's a war movie, but it's a spaghetti
It's
western.
the western in 1940s Europe.
Yep, absolutely. And so you're right. There's very little dialogue other than him telling the daughters to go get his water so he can wash his face. And there's the big thing about the German cars pulling up and the one guy getting out to let him out. And
it's like they never seem to get there. It's like shot, two was back, something else. They're still coming in.
You guys ever see Monty Python and the Holy Grail? There's a great scene like that where the knight's running toward the castle with the dramatic. There's a dramatic drum beat, but he never gets any closer to the castle. But Christoph Waltz in this scene immediately establishes the character that he's going to play the rest of the movie.
Yes.
By
brilliant exposition.
Simultaneously being terrifying and hilarious. The things he says are threatening because you know he's fucking there to kill people, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's all like, you know how it is when management changes and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And everything he does is like just off, just a little bit. Like they hand him the milk and he fucking drinks the whole glass.
Chugs the glass of warm milk,
Right.
I'll add.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the
And
fridge.
yet he's being so polite and everything. And then there's the point where he like pulls out his pipe to smoke it. And
Oh,
it's
it's
like,
absurd.
it's like
Yeah.
a fucking Toys R Us pipe. Like it's massive and everything. But that is immediately, that point where you're literally laughing out loud at his pipe. I remember being in the theater and people laughing out loud at that. Is immediately followed by, all right, let's cut to business. You're harboring enemies of the state. And it's a close-up of his face, which is deadly serious.
Yeah.
And the guy he's talking to has a tear rolling down his face because he knows he's just sentenced these people to death.
Yeah.
And having both of those there, Christoph Waltz does such a nice job establishing that right from the get-go.
It's that business-like thing, too. He's like, I assume that because I have heard nothing that they don't speak English. You know, I love it. He's like, can we speak English? Because
there's that
I feel like
transition to
my
the
French is
evil
so big.
side.
Right, so you know he's brilliant, too.
Oh, my God. And then he's like, pointing to the
Right.
floorboards, and then the stormtroopers come in and, you know, they shoot the place up, and then the girl gets away. And there's that point where he gets out with that little PK Walter thing, whatever, and he's like lining her up. She gets further and further and further.
Right.
And you're like, is he gonna fucking offer? You know she's dead. You know this is gonna happen. And he's like, you just finally realize it. I'll get her next time.
Right.
Au revoir, Soshana!
Right.
And that establishes her character.
Yeah.
Perfect exposition.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Right.
Sets the stakes. Sets the story in motion. Sets the tone. The whole thing established in that one scene.
And,
Brilliant.
there's no way for me to make the point I want to make without skipping to the end, so I hope that's okay.
Welcome to all 6 casts so far for Quentin Tarantino.
But, you know, in the beginning, he does that whole unsettling monologue where he talks about why he's so good at his job. Mm-hmm. And it's because he compares Jewish people, if they were an animal, they would be the rat. Right. So it's really uncomfortable. Yeah. It's Nazi propaganda. Right. But he then talks about how that's why he's so good at finding them, because he can think that way. Right. Yeah. So I say all that to say that's established in the first scene.
Right.
And then at the very end, like the first time you watch the movie, you're like, would he really do what he does? Like he's got his enemy right where he wants him. Would he really make that deal and do all that? But then you're like, well, the rat analogy, right? Like that's what they say about rats. They're the first one that knows when a building is burning or a ship is sinking, and what do? They bail. They save themselves.
Same thing he did at the end,
and that's what he does.
I love how it cuts from that scene to then, God, why am I thinking I can't? Brad Pitt, doing his absurd Tennessee accent, which is
I want
great.
so much more of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted another story of that.
Man, you take on a debit when you join my company.
Oh my God.
It's a
We're gonna
debit.
be doing one thing and
each
one
one
thing
of
only:
you.
killing Nazis.
So he's sort of like a blend of like John Wayne and like George W. Bush, who had
That's
like
a great way to describe it.
I think he was still
Agreed.
president when that movie was being filmed, right? And that's how he comes across, is like those two people blended together, and the face that he makes the whole movie, he's got that weird like scowl and squint. you know?
Yes, it's like Popeye. Yeah. Now that makes me about a quarter patchy. I want my scalps.
Yep.
And you're going to get them for me.
That's right.
Each one of you owe me 100 scalps.
Shit,
I aim to get my
And then it
scalps.
cuts straight to it.
Oh,
There are often Nazi scalps right away.
you know the first guy who gets scalped?
No.
That's Tarantino.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, he does a
That's
cameo in a lot of his
funny.
movies.
Yeah.
He's the one getting like they show it pretty clearly, getting his fucking hair cut off.
I
That's
didn't know
him.
that.
Now,
That's cool.
Like that one, I took minor issue with the effects for that one, because it was pretty clear that like I didn't see the face connected to the hand, but like as they're doing it, it's like, yeah, you're holding the like hair piece over the piece that's the brain, and it's not connected. It's just you're like rubbing the knife against your hand, which is holding the edge of the thing. A minor, coming from Kill Bill, where they like hilariously cut off two people's arms.
Yeah.
Like all the beautiful like violent effects there, and then we get this.
This
But
is
it's
much more realistic, though.
it's much more realistic, so it's a different effect
Yeah.
choice for sure.
Yeah, it's not cartoonish.
Yeah.
It's not like they're like absurdly ripping off these scalps. It's like, I mean, the sound effects and everything are pretty
They're
gruesome.
pretty, yeah. I had to make sure to not watch it with anybody else in my house.
You actually watch this dude get beat to death with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some really brutal shit in this movie.
I mean, like, the whole, like, again, this now, I guess, ushers in that next era of Tarantino of, like, the revenge film. Because you've got the Nazi Jewish revenge, like, no, we're gonna fucking mutilate Hitler in this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And, like, again, I'm jumping the horse here, but it's like, you know what? I'm going to give it to you.
Right.
I know it's not historical. I know it's not real, but fuck it, I want to see it.
Everybody in the world wants to see it.
Oh, God, yes.
Exactly. And so, to your point, this is also when he started his historical revisionism phase.
Yeah.
Because he does it here. I mean, he does it. Django Unchained is not, strictly speaking, historical revisionism in that it's not based on a true story. But the idea of like the slave revolt and the slave like killing everybody in the manor and all that and stuff is similar to the Hitler being killed in terms of its gratification. And then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a straight up historical revisionism. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet, so I won't say anymore.
We're going to hold that for that cast.
But
that's
that
where we're going.
Became another theme in Tarantino's films starting here.
Yeah. And that whole thing, I think it's just, again, it's I'm going to give them what they want, and it's going to be awesome. And just like, it's like, oh, he's the bear Jew, like, and it's...
I was just going to say, we can't go any further without talking about Sergeant Donnie, the bear Jew Donowitz.
Donnie Donowitz, right?
Donnie
like, what
Donowitz.
A great name. And it's just he's this guy in this tunnel. And they got this dude on his knees, and he's like this serious, like, German soldier. I don't even know if he's really a Nazi. He's a German soldier who's willing to die for the cause, right? As he goes... He goes like, Donnie, we got a Nazi out here who's willing to die for his country. Come on out and oblige him.
Oblige him.
Yes, and all you hear is the stick, the bat. Ting, ting, and it goes on forever until you finally see this hulking dude come out, and he just gets right to it, fucking cranks someone. Oh
man, every part of that scene is just fucking brilliant. Brad Pitt is great in it. He's like, my business is killing Nazis, and cousin. Business is a boom.
He's going to point out on this map where you were. He's really trying to get the job done.
He goes, you can't seriously expect me to divulge information that would cost German lives. And Brad Pitt goes, well, cousin, that's where you're wrong, because that's exactly what I expect you to do. Yes. Well, I need you to take that finger and put it up.
Well, it's fine with me. You're going to die anyway. Yeah. And then the other guy, he does it to him, but he won't let him go until he carves the fucking swastika into his forehead.
God,
it's so good.
So there's a Nazi in between those two that he tries to run away and the dude kills him.
Yeah.
And Aldo Rain's like over there just sort of casually eating his lunch, like he's taking his lunch break during all this. And he's like, God damn it. He's like, all right, send the other one over here. Alive, please.
Yeah. It's awesome. Because it's like, they're doing horrific shit.
Right.
Like, we're going to be doing one thing. Killing Nazis. Right. There's no objective. They're just there to kill as many as possible.
Right.
And like that, but it's like, that's what you want.
Well, Christoph Waltz sort of draws attention to that. Again, this is cutting ahead to the last scene, but he says something to Brad Pitt there. He goes, what you would call your mission, but what other people would call a terrorist plot.
Yes.
And it's sort of like, that's exactly what they're doing in that country at that point, is they're just acting as terrorists.
They're destabilizers.
And Aldo Rain lays that out as the mission in the beginning. He's like, they will come to know us through our horrific acts of violence.
Yep.
Yeah, we're the bastards.
Right.
Which, like, even though they're killing Nazis, I still was kind of like, this isn't great. But then the revenge felt great. Right? Throwing scalps in that, like, canvas bag or whatever. Yes. My first thought was, you've got, like, 2 days before that smells awful. Who has to carry that?
Yeah. Well, he's part of Apache, so, I mean, maybe he's schooled in how they tan them and get them more presentable. I don't know.
And his men did take on that debit.
That's right.
They did.
That debit.
But he does a great job. Brad Pitt does a great job as Aldo Rain, creating a character who seems at once really smart and calculating while also being like a total jackass at the same time.
I love how he goes, I speak a little bit of Italian, but it's like, no, he really does. He understands what Christoph wants to say, but then he's just like Gorlami, Arrivederci.
Yeah. They're all they're all like, saying goodbye in Italian or whatever, and he just says in a straight Virginian accent, Arrivederci.
Yeah. So good. So good.
And there's so many layers to that. It's like, that's probably how Americans come across. Right? We're just going to say shit that we think is your language, maybe. And I don't like this, by the way, but this is obviously a stereotype that that people have of us.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, is that character brilliant? Right? Are they that brilliant that they're just able to dick around like that?
Well, I think it's intentionally meant to be a caricature of like a John Wayne. You know what I mean? I think it's supposed to be like, all right, here's the American version of like the hero for decades in movies was this image.
Yeah.
And Tarantino's going to take that and sort of like, you know, on one hand, like pay homage to it while at the same time making it look completely absurd and we're all laughing at it.
Yeah.
I think Brad Pitt just was brilliant in that role.
Again, perfect casting.
Yeah.
That's his first role for Tarantino, right?
It was the first of two brilliant roles for Tarantino.
Yeah. Christoph Waltz's first movie, right?
The first of two brilliant roles for Tarantino, yep, absolutely.
And I love how, again, he works Samuel L. Jackson into all of his fucking films. He was the piano player in the church,
Kill Bill.
And now he's the narrator,
Right.
explaining all the exposition in this thing.
Right, like
Which I love because it just
Yes.
amps up the hyperbole of the whole thing by having a third-person narrator out like that.
I think he narrates that whole Hugo Stieglitz part.
Oh,
you know?
yeah,
Like,
the
every
Stieglitz.
Nazi soldier knows Hugo Stieglitz. And it cuts to that guy up on the hill, and you get like the sign that says his name, and you get that electric guitar. And then, but then it's Samuel L. Jackson comes in and does the whole backstory and everything.
He turned tail on the Nazis, and it's awesome. Well, they get him out of jail too, and it's like, we're gonna kill some Nazis.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Eldo Rain comes in and goes like, "You may have heard of us. We're the Bastards. We just want to say we're a really big fan of your work when it comes to killing Nazis."
Yep. Again, it's like that bureaucratic like job interview. It's like, would you like to be with us? We have a position available for you starting right now. Would you like to leave jail?
So good. I love how too. It's like that character. Like a lot of these important characters in the story just get these ignominious deaths. Like he's in that like.
The
thing that
bar.
goes sideways, but he goes down, stabbing a guy in the head repeatedly. And it's like, that's how he does.
And you don't, and to the ignominious part, you don't even know he's dead.
Yeah.
Until Eldo Rain says, like, is anyone left alive on our side? And the German dude's like, no, everyone's dead. You know? That's when you're like, oh, you know, Hugo Stieglitz died.
Yeah, him and the British guy who we barely knew. And
Yeah. It's so satisfying to say though.
Yeah, it really is, yeah.
Stiglitz.
And in my head, whenever anyone says the name, I hear
effective sound and music on that one for sure. But you know, it's interesting because again, we get I guess this movie is linear, right? But there's just multiple stories told.
Yeah.
That interweave between one another, but it's still linear.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got it's a bit of a time jump for Shoshana.
There's 3 years, between
the beginning of the occupation and then towards the end.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even before there's 3 years from the La Perdite, which we get in the beginning, and then 3 years to the Nazis, and the Bastards, and then we're Shoshana. So I guess it's 3 years too, because you imagine they happen at the same time.
There's a big jump for the Bastards too, because we get him announcing the mission. This is what you're signing up for, and it immediately goes to like that scene with the baseball bat and all that shit. But they're already famous in the country.
That's
They've
true.
been there doing.
And then
it
it's Hitler 99999.
Yes. Which I loved that parody of Hitler.
Oh yeah.
So I have come to love it, but I have a complicated history with that because, for years, to me, that was the one disappointing part of the movie. You were saying,
what did you expect?
You were saying before, like, it's, even though, the Bastards are the good guys, you were saying how it's like, it's still hard to watch some of the things that they do because it's pretty horrific.
Yeah.
And I was like, to me, I wanted Hitler, and it's not just Hitler, it's all the upper echelon of the Nazis. It's who's the propaganda minister?
Goebbels.
Yeah, Goebbels. Yeah.
Yeah, we see him at the table eating the dessert, which I got to get to because
they're
that was
all absurd. Every single one of them are absurd. They're over the top. I mean, Hitler seems like an emotional wreck who's just shrieking at everyone all the time.
Well, that's kind of how it was.
And I thought to me that took away some of like. I wanted a better villain for the Bastards to be fighting to justify what they were doing. However, I have evolved that position because in recent these sorts of over-the-top clowns do inspire that exact sort of worship. And, I guess all your villains don't have to be the calculating and sophisticated types.
I was struck with how little the actors resembled the real people. Like, the guy who played Hitler is just straight up ugly.
Yeah.
And actually, I kind of like the aesthetic choice. It's like, why would you want to make this guy look handsome and dashing or whatever? No, he's a freaking piece of shit.
Right.
And the same thing with Goebbels and Goering and Himmler, all of those. They all look terrible. Which is it's awesome.
No, you're right. I mean, even that dude that they get into it in the basement bar with, he's not revolting, but he's like creepy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's kind of like, we already know they're vile. Do you need to like amp it up with like lighting and like make them look tall or something like that? You know,
like,
as you do with typical villains.
Yeah.
You compare this to like Indiana Jones, who makes his bread and butter beating up Nazis, right? And then like it's like taking that to the nth level. Jones always went for the realistic looking Nazi, like, the Hitler in Last Crusade looks a lot like the real deal Hitler, right? Yeah. And it's like, oh shit, you know. But like this one is just like you said, it's a caricature.
Yeah.
And again, he just gets straight up destroyed with a machine gun. I love the fact that they fucking mow him down, and then his head like disintegrates on camera for a brief second. You're like, that's fucking awesome.
Is it Donnie who's holding the gun?
Yes, he's like,
they literally show the hate in his face, and he's already dead, but he's still just shooting him and shooting him. Yeah.
And you know she's gonna die, so he's just gonna go out doing this and
enjoy it.
Soak it up.
That was the thing that the world wanted to see in 45, 46, 47, 43, 44. So right.
And now we've come to expect the gratifying revisionist ending in Tarantino, but that was really the first time he did that. Yeah. I remember watching that in the theater, going like, "Holy fuck, this isn't what happened. That's great."
It would have been better.
Right.
Yeah.
I wish this is what happened.
Yep.
You know, this is a good transition to Shoshana, because like a lot of this film is about film.
Right.
And like what film can do for you and what film could or couldn't do, shouldn't do, and like it gives us something we wanted when we couldn't have it.
Right.
Which, you know, is... I heard that a lot when Shoshana's talking to anybody about movies and having our cinema. And what's the guy's name? When she's taken the letters down from the sign.
The soldier.
The soldier,
Daniel Rule, the guy who plays him. I can't think of his... Frederick, maybe?
Frederick Zoller, maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
And they're talking about films and stuff. And he's like, well, you know, there's that whole, like, nationalistic thing where he's like, well, yeah, sure, I liked, what is it? They were talking about the silent film actor. I can't think of his name now.
Charlie Chaplin?
Buster
Keaton.
Yeah.
Both. They're talking about, and they're like, well, you know, Buster Keaton's great, but, like, Charlie Chaplin's one film was just superb.
I think he mentioned City Lights. I think
City Lights, which of course a Nazi would like.
True.
So, you know, but I find that really interesting that the banter that he works into this film is about movies itself and kind of like think a thought experiment on films.
Well, that's what makes Tarantino like so great, is that at heart he's really just a movie nerd.
Yeah.
And that's his history. He grew up watching movies. He spent all his time in the theater, not just watching good movies, but watching schlock. And then he worked in a video store.
Yeah.
And, you know, to this day, like, I mean, he makes movies, but he also writes about movies. He put out a book recently called Cinema Speculation, which is excellent. And he has a podcast where they do double features. They talk about two movies, him and this other guy, that they used to have in the video store that he worked in.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
And some of them are real fucking movies you never heard of, deep cuts and everything. But my point here is listening to this guy talk about movies makes you want to go watch movies. Like he's one of those people that can describe what the thing he loves in a way that makes you love it too. And that absolutely is a huge theme here, is just that sheer appreciation for the medium.
You mentioned that too, Adam. Made me think about you saying about the revisionist history part of it is almost like how he takes out the entire upper echelon of the Nazis and ends the war in a cinema.
Yeah.
Right? It's like movies have the power to do these things.
Right.
Right? You can live you can live what you wanted in a movie.
Right.
So it's almost like that little wink meta nod to the audience saying like, hey, it's a film. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
Not just in a movie theater, but the fire is literally all these reels.
The movies are doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah, I love the talk about the plot. When was it Samuel L. Jackson again who comes in and is like,
how flammable it is.
Flammable, what is silver nitrate or whatever it is. It's super flammable, and Shoshana happens to have like 3 billion of these films of silver nitrate in their theater.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, fantastic.
Correctamundo.
There we go. Yeah, friend of the cast, Samuel L. Jackson. Sorry he couldn't be here tonight. He said there was some scheduling conflict. It was weird.
Well, he's a very busy guy.
He is a busy man.
Oh, yeah, but it would have been very satisfying. All right, so, we've kind of glozed over the plot to kill the Nazis, and I'm going to struggle to not say it as Brad Pitt does.
Oh, I have to say
every
it that
time.
way.
Nazis.
Nazis.
In her theater.
Yeah.
But we skipped over a little bit between Shoshana and, is it Goebbels officially when they're having that apple strudel?
You wanted to talk about the strudel.
I do, because I felt like, so as an English teacher, I'm looking at this going like, okay, there's a big deal about this cream, and like
Wait
there's
for the cream.
Wait for the cream, and then there's the ASMR of like them cracking into the, but wasn't there like a quick like 1 or 2 second cut of Shoshana like having sex with somebody? I missed that. I was like distracted a couple times when I was watching it.
The guy that works for her in the movie theater,
Yeah.
he's supposed to be like her lover.
Okay, so maybe that's what I got distracted by. I was having puppy issues at the time, and like
I don't remember that though. Was
back.
there some kind of brief?
I don't remember that.
So
cut?
maybe there wasn't, and maybe I'm making too much of the cream, but like it felt like overtly sexual with the way he was like, "No, you first,"
Right.
Or he probably said "après-vous," and then like they cut in on the cream and the strudel real close, a tight shot, not a super tight shot, and then there's like so much time spent, and maybe it's just a Tarantino thing of like spending time on something banal.
I think that's the Tarantino linger. Like, we'll call it that. Like he lingers on the slippers that she takes off in Kill Bill, or he lingers on this on the strudel.
Does tend to linger on women's feet a lot.
Yeah,
And
well,
he's known for that.
we're not going to kink shame here at Nerds of the Old Republic.
Yeah, the bride moving her finger or her toes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, every movie, we don't have to talk about them because some of them are still coming up, but Uma Thurman again in Pulp Fiction, where she walks across the rug, or when she takes her shoes off in the restaurant. Yes, I mean, it's in every movie. It's there.
But there is that. And what I was getting from that sense was like, she's terrified because this is the guy who murdered her family.
Yeah.
And he's so brilliant. He's going to figure out who she is, right? Like, she knows that's it. Her cover's blown.
He may already.
Yeah, but he never really, truly does. And then you're always left wondering, did he know the whole time?
Right.
Did he just have this idea that, I'm going to let her be because maybe she's useful in some way, and it's turned out to be useful for him? He is such a fucking menacing figure in this movie.
Yep.
Even the way that scene ends is like there's that moment where he goes, "Oh, before we go, there's just one more thing I wanted to ask you."
Yes.
And once again, just like it did in the first scene, when he's like, "You're harboring enemies of the state, aren't you?" The camera zooms right in on his face, and he just sits there, and he's got this deadly, serious, intense stare on his face, and there's this long silence, and then he goes, "But I can't remember what it was." So,
Yeah.
Yes. And then when he leaves, she's like,
right. She takes that deep breath.
yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, she's heard that before. She knows where it was going to go.
Right.
Yeah.
I love Christoph Waltz's turn too, when he basically, like you said, the rat.
Yeah.
He sells out the whole Nazi high command and is just like, I'm going to let you do this because you're going to guarantee me this, that, and the other thing. Right. And he goes, I'm going to jump to it. I just love it.
That's fine. We're so close.
They do the prisoner exchange thing, and he's like, "Oh, you're to put me in handcuffs?" Or I'm a realist or whatever. Yeah. I'm a stickler for the details or something like that. And then the way he just completely turns it. One more thing. When you're out on, this uniform, you take this really nice uniform off. I want to give you something you can't take off when you're out there on Nantucket there. They show it in visceral detail, him carving the swastika as he's screaming into his, I'm like, oh, he finally got it. Oh,
that's great.
So
and my
good.
other favorite part of that scene is when he goes, I made a deal for this man's life. You'll be shot. And he goes, "Nah, I'll get chewed up."
Yeah, I've been chewed up before. Yeah, the Nazis are different than the Americans. Like, I'll get chewed out. I've been chewed out before. Yeah. It's so good.
So we're probably up to the basement scene then, right?
Yeah.
After the Michael Myers cameo.
Oh man,
that was absurd.
Do we want to talk the Myers cameo?
It's like, okay,
we don't want to gloss over.
What the fuck is Michael Myers doing in this movie? And he's playing like one of those freaking like Austin Powers pastiches.
I was gonna say, it reminded me very much.
You could see that stupid smirk he does, like that look, but his British accent
like
was okay,
meta,
I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he does that that look he does. It's like,
he does get one line off that is really good. I've used it a lot myself. He's Michael Fassbender asks for a scotch and water. And then he's like, something for you. And he's like, scotch. And he's like, water? And he goes, no junk.
Yeah.
I was like, that's great. I use that all the time. No junk in my whiskey.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay, but it's just, it takes me out of it a little bit when it's like, it's fucking Michael Myers.
Well, that's hard because all I see is like the fat bastard parodies and all that shit.
Right, his real cheesy British shit that's just like, exactly. It felt anachronistic. Right. It's like, okay, that was a long time ago. Yes, we all laughed at Austin Powers in 1995.
We are different people now.
We're very different now.
Yeah. Oh, I agreed. But it does lead into, for me, one of the high moments of the film is the basement scene. Yeah. That whole scene is fucking amazing. So entertaining beginning to end.
Yep. There's a lot of lingering in there. There's the drunk guys. They're playing the game.
Yeah.
The SS officer and just the way he just won't let him go.
Right.
Won't let him go. And then he's, I'm just messing with you. I'm just joking. Of course I'm intruding,
Right.
And then notices the 3 instead of the 3.
Right.
And like, I got a gun pointed at your nuts. And they got a Mexican standoff again going in that thing. And then it keeps going. Another linger on those shots of the guns pointed at each other's nuts. And then the whole thing goes tits up in like 2 seconds. All of a sudden it's like, oh shit, everyone's fucking dead.
Yep.
Right? It's unbelievable.
It's really cool, yeah. I mean, right from the first moment that I should look up that actor's name because I think he does a really good job in the sense that he's so revolting and creepy as that officer. But it's all like, Michael Fassbender's just put these fucking drunk German soldiers in their place.
Yeah.
And then the drunk guy starts stammering, like, you have a funny accent or whatever. And they're like, get the fuck out of here. What are you, crazy to question an officer? And then all of a sudden you just hear, in German, of course, might I inquire?
Yes.
And it cuts to him and he's sitting there reading a book.
Yep.
And he slowly closes it and puts the book down. Then he slowly walks to the record player because the needle's still going and he takes that off. And then he slowly walks out and walks over to the table. And this takes forever.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the Tarantino linger.
Exactly. It's the long turn and then it's trademark. We're out of it. No, we're not out of it. Oh, we're out of it. No, we're not out of it. And it's like the most trivial of things that blows it.
Yeah.
And then when it's all done and everyone's dead and you think, oh, okay, well, there's that.
Right.
Then it keeps going with the next thing. And Eldo's coming down there. He's like, I'm going to make you a deal. I'm going to no guns. And it's like, whoa. And it's like, no, we said no guns, dude, no deal. And it's like, I'm going to trust you.
I love the way his voice sounds. Aldo Raines, too. And he's like, when she pops up and she like yells like, I'm alive. And he goes, who's that? And he goes, that's so-and-so the actress or whatever.
On Hammerschmidt.
And he goes, is she with you? And he goes, you can hear Brad Pitt. There's a pause and he goes, yeah, she's with us.
Yeah.
Now he's like, fuck, now I got to deal with this situation.
And she kills the father, like the new father and all that. I love the next scene when they're in a veterinarian's office.
Yes.
You get the bullet room, and he sticks his finger into the wound, and they show it go in like knuckles deep in, and I'm like, oh shit, that's so painful. He's twisting it, and she's screaming like this poor woman who's trying to help you, and you're fucking this, and man, it was great. And then she's wonderful in her role. And then I'm not sure who the actor is, but then it goes on to the next thing when they're at the theater and they got the cast on and Christoph Waltz, of course, is him. And he pulls the shoe out. And then basically he goes full psycho and chokes her out, which is not what you expect from the suave guy.
No.
Yeah,
but that's the whole, the whole character. Like in every scene, it's a mixture of like the silly, the silly, and the terrifying. Yeah. And because even in that scene up till that point, like he's like this quirky, silly dude. He does that thing where, he's like tells her to put her foot on his lap. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't do it at first. And, folks at home won't be able to see this, but he does that goofy, exaggerated gesture where he's like...
points the finger right to the
hand
left.
way over the top of the head and then straight back down to the foot.
She has to do it.
So all of that is like, it's like quirky, it's a little silly, and then all of a sudden he's just like, and he like lands on her.
He goes like Danny DeVito as the penguin. He just goes nuts. Like, lingering on her getting choked out.
Mm-hmm. Tarantino goes for it. You see her, the actress's eyes like are watering and turning red and bug-eyed, and you see his face and you can see that he's like putting all his bodily muscle into it.
And then afterwards he dismisses like, oh, she got what she deserved.
Right.
And it's like, but the whole time he knew he was going to make that deal, but she needed to die as far as he was concerned in his twisted morals.
Right.
Yeah.
But and so all of that comes after the great scene in the lobby, though.
Oh, Gorlammy.
He's like, I'm the one who
We've been
speaks.
quoting that for at least a week.
Oh,
One more time, please.
Yeah.
Gorlammy.
And you can see Brad Pitt's like total like frustration with the situation, but his inability to break character and do anything about it, you know.
Oh, so
So
good.
he Christoph Waltz says all of this like fluent Italian sentences upon sentences, and then when he's finally done, there's this long pause, and then Brad Pitt finally goes, "Grazie,"
Yeah. Grazie.
or "Grazie."
Yeah, I love the fucking, like, he makes them all repeat their names over and over.
Yeah.
One more time.
Yeah, let me really hear the music in it.
Yes, yes. So good.
But that's the other thing is both of those guys were like, I don't fucking speak Italian. But they both fucking do a way better Italian.
Yeah, way better.
Way better.
Brad Pitt.
So good.
Like, it's like, I don't remember what the names they actually say, but it's like, you know, Mario Corleone. You know, it's like this exaggerated cliche, silly, like Italian, but it's way better than Brad Pitt, who's literally just saying Italian words in a West Virginian accent.
Oh my God. But I love the fact that he's the one that actually understands what the hell he's saying in Italian.
Right.
Oh, and he's got that look of like he fucking knows it. We all know it. Why are we doing this dance right now?
Well, that's the thing. He never loses the West Virginian accent and also the John Wayne, like, grimace, like the Clint Eastwood grimace into the sun. That look is on his face through that entire scene. In no way does he attempt to not be who he is, other than that he says one or two Italian words.
Yeah. And it's so weird how like they got roped into this because the other thing blew up in their faces.
Yeah.
So you just knew it basically like, well, this is our shot.
Right.
We got to take it.
Right.
You know, and like they went in not even saying it was a suicide mission, but it was just like, yeah, it's a suicide mission.
Yeah.
It totally implied we're strapping dynamite to our fucking ankles.
Well, you realize that later because those guys are doing what they're doing and the bomb goes off and it's like, well, that must always have been the plan because that was on them.
Right.
So
yeah, they just fucking straight up
they never say that out loud, you know. But
slaughtered like so many Nazis though.
Right.
So
very gratifying to
Nancy's,
watch.
yeah.
They got their scalps, right? I mean, that's what it came down to. It's just so weird. Again, like most Tarantino movies, except for like the Kill Bill movies, the person you expect to survive kind of does, but kind of doesn't.
You're right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you expect, like maybe the Von Hammerschmidt, maybe she'll get out of this. Nah, she gets choked out.
Right.
You don't think Christoph Waltz is going to survive this thing. He's unscathed, but he survives it.
Right.
And you get B.J. Novak. Like that guy had like almost nothing to do in this movie except to just basically tell him, I think that's your best one yet, Corporal, or whatever. When he's like carving the things, that's all he got out of the whole thing.
Well, and then the one person that you are almost certain will survive is
Sophie.
Exactly, and
Sophie.
she doesn't.
I'm sorry, not Sophie.
Or the
Shoshana.
yes, thank you. Yes, and she doesn't because that's actually a really you're like it's one of those movies like a don't go in there, don't open that door. You're like, why are you going over there?
Right.
Don't touch his body and turn him over. But you don't really expect her to get blasted multiple times by a gunshot and die right there.
Right,
You know
exactly.
that comes as a surprise.
You expect him to turn over and be like, I thought we had something or something like that, and then just die, and then she gets sad or whatever. But I will give him this. Yes, she dies again. It's horrible. The other guy, Daniel Rule, dies. They all die. But she still gets her revenge. It's still her face on the screen in the middle of the film saying you're all going to fucking die by a Jew is doing this to you.
Right.
And then like even after the screen burns down, the smoke and her ghostly figure is projected onto the smoke.
And that haunting laugh she does while the people are screaming and everything's
So she definitely got her revenge.
Oh
too.
my God, she absolutely did. Yes. Which comes to that fucking hilarious scene in the restaurant finally with Brad Pitt and Aldo. He's like I don't even remember what he's asking Brad Pitt. He asks him some question though. Brad Pitt doesn't even respond, but his face says it all. And Christoph Waltz goes, "Ooh, that's a bingo!"
Yes.
Brad Pitt's like, "You just say bingo."
Yeah. Now we just say bingo. He thinks he's got the world dicked.
Right.
Right? He did all that stuff for the Nazis and, did all that for a long time.
right.
And then he's like, I'm going to get away with this scot-free.
Right.
Yeah,
You
gonna
won't
run away
get-
to Bolivia.
You won't get Hitler, you won't get Goebbels, the other two people, and you need all four if you want to end the war tonight. So if you want to end the war, you have to make a deal. He's like very methodical. He's thought it all through. He's smarter than everyone in the room.
I really wish that there was more Christoph Waltz in like modern performance. It's
Yeah.
like the guy's just so damn good. I know we're going to talk about him with Django.
He's
Yeah.
so good in that movie.
Totally different character,
Very different.
but equally awesome.
Yeah.
For the record, he won, let's see, Waltz won the Cannes Film Festival's Best Actor Award, a BAFTA Screen Actors Guild,
Is this for
for
Inglourious?
Inglourious. This is only for Inglourious. Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor.
Okay.
All
awesome.
for this film.
Nice. So
So he did win the Oscar.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah,
Wow.
for supporting actor, obviously.
Well, yeah, but still, he got an Oscar.
Yeah.
Well deserved.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah. So, like, yeah,
Absolutely.
he did mop up.
Right.
I mean, the only thing he didn't get was a Tony and a... No, I'm just
So
kidding.
he's not an EGOT?
Yeah, he's not an EGOT yet, but
Not yet.
give him time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, people recognize that greatness there, so...
I did like appreciate a lot that Tarantino was willing to cast European actors in this movie too, like Daniel
Yeah.
Bruhl as the private sniper guy.
Mhm.
I love him in everything he does. He's a great character actor. He was awesome in Drive when he played Nicky Lauda, the F1 driver. He was great as Baron von Zemo in the Marvel stuff. Like he's just a really good actor, and he's German. And the girl who played the German actress there, she's also, I think, European. And the girl who played Sophie is French. Or not Sophie, God, Shoshana, she's French. Like, all these legitimate Europeans, you know, it's not like he's just jamming an American in there and just saying, do an accent, you know?
Yeah.
It was well done.
Well, I think part of it might be that it lets Brad Pitt's performance shine a
that's
little
a good
bit
point.
more. But also... It kind of inverts your expectations again when you think about like an American director making a World War II film. Like, you know, let's throw Clint Eastwood in there and let's throw other white Americans
Right.
in
He didn't
Western roles.
I guess I can't say he didn't whitewash it because they're all white people anyway, but
Yeah.
he didn't Americanize it,
Yeah.
right? Like Christoph Waltz is Austrian, right? Or something
Right.
like that. So it all just fit very well the way he did it.
But and I think your point is right too. It definitely highlights like the Americanisms of the other characters. The I think it's West Virginia of Brad Pitt.
Tennessee.
It's what's that?
Tennessee.
Is it?
I have a hard time separating
Jesus
those.
Christ.
Because he
in my
says
mind.
he says something at one
You
point
got
about
Tennessee.
like I did not come down from the like Blue Ridge, Western Virginia mountains or whatever.
He says Tennessee.
Does he?
Uh-huh.
All right. Don't look.
He was. I'm not
Don't
going to look it up. We're
I'm
just
not going to
gonna
have you
finish
show me
it.
right 3 times.
Yeah,
But
3 times in one night.
regardless, that and then Donnie's got that absurd like, oh yeah, he knocked it out of Fenway Park, like that
Yeah.
that Boston shit, you know.
Shit! I dropped my car keys.
Is it recommendation time then?
It is. That's where we're at. I'm a yes. I mean, why wouldn't you? I don't understand why.
When I saw this movie, I still remember I was living in Charlotte at the time, so I had less options of who I could go to see it with. So unfortunately, that responsibility fell to my wife, who's not a fan of these movies at all.
Yeah.
But she was a good
Mine too.
sport, and so she went and saw this movie with me. And I still remember vividly walking out to the parking lot afterwards, and she asked me what I thought, and I told her that I never ever would have thought I would have said this about another movie by Tarantino again, but that this might rival Pulp Fiction.
Wow.
And I had to see it a bunch more times, and over time I would still say Pulp Fiction is the superior film.
Agreed.
But Inglourious Basterds is right there. I mean, it is so fucking good. I really feel it invigorated the second, act of Tarantino's career. I have so much admiration for this movie.
Yeah. I'm going to say no.
Of course,
Yeah.
because
fuck
we're
it.
never unanimous here.
No, you're too late. You're too late. You should have seen when it came out. Fuck you. Why didn't you watch this movie yet? Don't
Missed
watch
your
it.
chance.
Yeah. That boat has sailed. Yeah.
Well, take that as you can. We are going to wrap up for tonight. I'm definitely feeling this breakfast. Is that what it was? A breakfast stout?
Warhorse.
Warhouse?
There is a Churchill breakfast stout. That's why I thought
That's-
it was.
yeah.
at
Tiki
first, too.
time with Churchill.
This is very different.
coconut coffee.
Tropical.
Tropical
Tiki
stout.
time with
Yeah.
Churchill.
It's
So-
all
It's the
kinds of.
fucking best.
We're
shit
gonna
ever.
like it's a
Is this
it's
the most
a
Tarantino thing you've ever
it's a
seen?
beer it's a word salad for beer.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
But I am 3 casts in. I'm definitely starting to fade here. So
The more
I'm
I
glad we
drink
got
it,
our
the more I liked
recommendations
it.
in. Well, there you go. Right, just keep on drinking.
Yeah, that's all.
It'll get
It's
you
the answer to
drunk.
everything.
Yeah. So you can keep on drinking, dear audience, because when you see us next, you might need a few drinks to watch Django Unchained because
Oh man.
it's glorious. Well, I mean, you can make your own opinions about things.
Is
but
it Inglourious?
fuck you, I'm right. It's maybe Inglorious. But also, like, definitely worth a sober watch as well.
So we're doing Django, Hateful Eight,
Yep.
and Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time.
in
Now we'll bring us
Hollywood.
up to 10,
And that will be the sunset of Tarantino's
The
oeuvre for us. Yeah.
retrospective look at.
We'll probably uncomfortably
Retrospectivus.
linger on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Some pointless conversation.
I
for an extra
cannot
20
wait.
minutes.
I have. I'll say nothing else. I don't want to.
Yeah,
no
I've-
spoiler
I've-
alerts.
This is the branch of Tarantino that I've not seen.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, it started with Inglorious and then has kind of, the rest of them I haven't seen. So,
Oh, you have not seen Django? Oh, you're in for a real treat.
It is,
No.
Yeah, it is fun.
I mean, I've seen clips.
Django and Once Upon a Time are fucking magnificent movies. Hateful Eight's fine, but those two in particular.
yeah.
Gotcha.
We'll
Well,
breathlessly await the 10th movie, too, and,
Oh yeah.
we'll see how
Yeah.
that goes. Should
we can
be
speculate
soon.
on the 10th.
Yeah. I mean, Once Upon a Time was at least, 5 years ago now?
Yeah, close to it, if not quite. Yeah.
Getting close to his time frame for cranking something
Well, he's
out.
already talked about the next one. I think he's actually said the title of it, which is going to be The Movie Critic. But he hasn't really released any details of what that actually means and anything else.
Good
And
teaser.
as always, the speculation is going to be wrong because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the speculation was that this was going to be a Charles Manson movie, and it turns out Manson is like a very small
Right.
Yeah.
role in it, so. But anyways, the movie's announced. I think they're actively working on it right now.
Cool. So it'll be about the character, that cartoon from the 90s, The Critic?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
All right.
that. Yeah.
What's that guy's name? Jay something or other?
It's actually a biopic of Roger Ebert.
Oh,
there you
wow. Okay. Wow.
Told through Muppets.
2 thumbs up. The Muppets.
Yeah.
It's the Tarantino Muppet movie.
Yeah.
Or there has to be a Muppet interlude at some point,
Yeah.
right? Like you do
Muppet
with
musical,
anime.
for sure.
Can't wait.
With Jason Segel.
I'm here for
All
it. Let's do it.
All right. Well, catch us next time with Django Unchained. Who knows what we're drinking? We don't know yet, but we'll let you know eventually. Thank you for being here. Find a friend, share the show, please, with one friend, because social media is so 2000s, and we are
right.
way beyond 8. If you're still on social media, it's 2008. So we're going to leave you out with that. Have a great night, and thank you for being here, listeners. Cheers.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
God damn it.
Cue the music, Sean.